Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Regina Stevens of the New York Transportation Development Corporation. I'm the Assistant Secretary, for the New York Transportation Development Corporation. Before we begin our meeting this afternoon, I would like to ask everyone to please mute your lines unless you are speaking. I will take a roll call of the directors to ensure that we have a quorum present on the line. When you hear your name, please say present. Howard Zemsky,
Present.
George Haggerty,
Present.
Kathleen Mize,
Present.
Kavina Raghavan.
Present.
Okay, thank you very much. Chairman Zemsky, you may begin the meeting.
Okay, thanks, Regina, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining. I now call to order the meeting of the directors of the New York Transportation Development Corporation for Thursday, October 14th, 2021. Before we get started, I'll ask that everyone mute their phones until you are ready to speak, and ask that anyone wishing to speak to please state your name before you begin. For the record, I'll note that in accordance with recently passed legislation, this meeting will be conducted via teleconference. Also note for the record, the public has been given the opportunity to comment on the agenda items by submitting their written comments to nytdc@esd.ny.gov by 5 o'clock yesterday, and no comments were received from the public concerning today's agenda items. Directors have received the relevant written materials in advance of today's meeting and are free to ask questions at any time. Before we begin with the substantive portion of the meeting, I'll ask the directors whether anyone has any potential conflict of interest with respect to today's agenda items. Please make an appropriate disclosure on the record at this time if you do, and we will be sure that you may recuse yourself from any discussion or vote with regard to the item. Hearing none, our first order of business is the approval of the minutes for the directors' meeting of May 21st, 2021. Are there any questions, comments, additions, or deletions to the minutes? Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
It's Kathleen, I'll motion.
Okay,
I'll
Kathleen.
second Kavina.
In a second, Kathleen, thank you. I know it's hard to do this by phone that way. All in favor? Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? None. Thank you. Okay. I will now ask Miyoko Okubo to present the next item on today's agenda, requesting authorization to appoint underwriters, appoint a financial advisor, prepare documents for the issuance of bonds, and take related actions in connection with Phase 2.5 Terminal 4 redevelopment project at John F. Kennedy International Airport. Miyoko, take it away.
Thank you, and good afternoon. As part of the modernization, expansion, and equipment of the existing Terminal 4 and other related facilities at John F. Kennedy International Airport, the New York Transportation Development Corporation, which I will refer to as the corporation, has been requested by JFK International Air Terminal LLC, JFK IAT, or the borrower, to issue its special facility revenue bonds in one or more series or subseries, including but not limited to Series 2021A, tax-exempt AMT, and Series 2021B, taxable, in which may be fully or partially supported by a bond insurance policy or a reserve fund surety, the proceeds of which will be used by the borrower to pay costs relating to the modernization, expansion, and equipping of the existing Terminal 4 and other related facilities at JFK, collectively the project, pay a portion of the interest on the bonds accruing during construction of the project, fund a debt service reserve fund for the bonds, and pay cost of issuance related to the bonds. Today, we ask that the directors authorize the following actions that I will discuss in further detail in relation to this bond issuance. the selection of the senior managing underwriter and additional underwriters, the appointment of financial advisors if utilized, the holding of a public TIFRA hearing, the inducement of a project for private activity financing, and declare the official intent of the corporation to provide funds for the reimbursement of pre-issuance expenditures for the project, and the preparation of documents in connection with the bond. Selection of underwriters. J.P. Morgan Securities LLC has been selected as the senior managing underwriter for the bonds. J.P. Morgan is on the corporation's pre-qualified list of underwriters that was created after an RFP process by the Empire State Development, or ESD, and adopted by the corporation on February 24, 2020. The board selected J.P. Morgan for its extensive experience in all aspects of municipal finance, its extensive experience as an underwriter on other corporation and ESD bond issuances, and its response and rating in the pre-qualification process. The corporation, in consultation with the borrower, will have the option to select other underwriters from the corporation's pre-qualified list of underwriters. Selection of financial advisor. The corporation also may select a financial advisor from its pre-qualified list of financial advisors that was created after an RFP process by ESD and adopted by the corporation on February 24, 2020. A financial advisor may be selected based on its extensive experience in all aspects of municipal finance, particularly airport financing, hourly rate proposal subject to a cap of $250,000, extensive experience as a financial advisor on other bond issuances, and responses and ratings in the pre-qualification process. Selected firm will be paid by the borrower pursuant to a pre-financing agreement. Federal tax law requirements. Federal tax law, specifically the Tax Equity and Fiscal Responsibility Act, commonly referred to as TEFRA, requires a hearing prior to the issuance of qualified private activity bonds in certain circumstances. The corporation has been requested to act as an issuer of qualified private activity bonds for this project. Consequently, a TEFRA hearing may be required, and the applicable notice period for the TEFRA hearing is 7 days. TEFRA also requires that, following the hearing, the applicable elected representative of the issuer of qualified private activity bonds, in this case the governor, approve the transaction. Inducement. Inducement of the project and the declaration of corporation's official intent to provide funds for the reimbursement of pre-issuance expenditures will enable proceeds of the bonds in an expected maximum principal amount of $1.6 billion to be used, among other things, to reimburse project expenditures made by the borrower prior to the date or dates of the issuance of the bond. The attached resolution does not authorize or require the corporation to issue the bond. The documents. It is intended that the bond will be issued to finance a portion of the project. In order to do that, the related documents must be drafted and approved for issuance of the bonds expeditiously. An additional TDC board meeting will occur so that the board of directors can approve the form of final documents. In conclusion, staff asks that the director authorize the selection of J.P. Morgan as the senior managing underwriter for the bonds and the ability to appoint additional underwriters as the deal progresses. The appointment of financial advisors, if utilized. That the corporation take actions related to a holding of a TEFRA hearing, inducement of a project for private activity financing, and preparation of documents in connection with bonds. I'm happy to answer any questions at this time.
Okay, Miyoko, thanks very much for that presentation. Are there any questions or comments from directors with regard to this item? Okay, as noted earlier, we do not have any comments from the public with regard to this item. Is there a motion for approval of this item?
Hi, this is Pravina. I motion to approve this item.
Okay, thanks, Ravina. Is there a second?
George seconds.
Thanks, George. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay, thank you all. The motion carries. Unless somebody objects, Miyoko will provide one presentation on the next three agenda items, requesting authorization to enter contracts to provide legal services to New York Transportation Development Corp. For the issuing of bonds in connection with Phase 2.5 Terminal 4 redevelopment project at JFK. Miyoko, please begin.
Thank you. Today, we ask that the directors authorize the corporation to enter into legal services contracts for bonds and disclosure counsel in connection with the issuance of bonds for the JFK International Airport Terminal 4 project that I previously described. Bond counsel is needed to ensure the corporation's compliance with the federal tax law requirement for an opinion from bond counsel on tax-exempt bonds, and to ensure compliance with applicable securities laws and market practices. It is recommended that Squire Patton Boggs U.S. LLP and law offices of Joseph C. Reed, P.A. serve as co-bond counsel on this transaction. Both firms were selected from the corporation's pre-qualified counsel list. Additionally, both firms previously served as co-bond counsel for the 2020 issuance of bonds for the JFK Terminal 4 project. Disclosure counsel is needed to ensure the corporation's compliance with disclosure requirements for issuers of tax-exempt bonds under federal securities laws and market practices. It is recommended that Hardwick Law Firm LLC serve as disclosure counsel on this transaction. Hardwick, a certified MWBE firm, was selected from the corporation's pre-qualified counsel list as having bond financing expertise and experience working on a variety of transactions. Additionally, Hardwick also served as disclosure counsel for 2020 issuance of bonds for JFK Terminal 4 project. The appointments of these law firms will represent an equitable distribution of work among the corporation's rotating slate of senior and junior tier bond law firms and MWBE law firms to handle the corporation's debt in terms of size, number of transactions, fees received, and length of time since their last engagement with the corporation. Contracts will be funded in their entirety by JFK IAT from bond proceeds on or about the closing of the bonds as agreed upon by the corporation and JFK IAT in a pre-financing agreement. Counsels will work at a small discount from their typical hourly billing rates. Counsels will agree that the corporation will not be obligated to pay any amounts for services described, except to the extent, if any, that the corporation receive funds from JFK IAT for that purpose. I am happy to answer any questions at this time.
Okay, have you made it through the three items, Miyoko?
Yes, I have.
Okay, are there any, thank you for that. Are there any questions or comments from the directors with regard to any of these three items on the agenda? Okay, we don't have any comments from the public. I'll now entertain a motion for approval on all three of these items.
Kathleen, I'll motion to
Thank
approve.
you. Thanks, Kathleen. Is there a second?
This is Pravina. I'll second.
Thanks, Ravina. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Great. Are there any opposed? All right. Good job, and thanks to everyone in finance and legal for such an extensive and thorough procurement. There is no other business on our agenda. May I have a motion to adjourn?
This is Pravina. I motion to adjourn.
Okay, everyone. Thank you again, and thank you for joining.
Thanks, Howard. Everyone have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.